Welcome back to 2190 Live, everybody. I am Zaina Allen, and I am here with the amazing, the visionary herself, Miss Imani Ellis. How are you doing today?
Hey, Zaina girl, I am good. It is almost Friday, and we are a month out from CultureCon.
How are you feeling? Like CultureCon, I know you, and we're gonna get into it a lot more, but do you have like any feelings or any anxiety or anything whenever CultureCon is on its way in?
I would say it's definitely a mix of like excitement, anticipation. There's always like jitters, I think, whenever you're creating something that like you want your community to, enjoy. But I try to like channel like any like nervous energy into like, okay, it's time to go. It's time to act.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And I've when I first interviewed you back in 2019, child, when I first interviewed you back in 2019, CultureCon was like really starting to get its footing, right? And now, seven years later, goodness gracious, 7 years later, what type of like impact do you think that you've made on the community through all of your efforts? Not even just with CultureCon, but with the CCNYC.
Well, I love that you really kind of like zoom out to CCNYC because even though CultureCon is our biggest event, we are doing things throughout the year. So we just wrapped up 6 free months of therapy for the community. We know that it has been a year, and sometimes I feel like the obstacles to finding things are some of the reasons why people are like, I'm just not going to do this. And so we try to make the barriers just non-existent as best we can. And so for us, it's kind of always listening in and figuring out like we can't be everything to everyone, but like, what does our community need right now? And so we also have been doing a lot of like grants for the community. It's just like such an uncertain, I feel like just 2025 is weird. It's just a lot is going on. And so for us, it's just getting back to the basics in terms of like being a compound sentence. So our community starting that sentence and then us trying to be the resource that kind of like finishes that sentence. And then also it's just been gathering. I think sometimes we underestimate just like being in community with other people. And there's different types of gatherings, right? You've got the events that you're going to that are really more about kind of like consuming art or consuming something. But I think one of the things that's special about our meetups is that it's really more about like an exchange and not necessarily networking. It could be just energy exchange. Like you might be having a really hard season, and being in community with someone who just came out of a hard season, I think can, sometimes be what makes the difference.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I have yet to actually no, I've been to two events that you guys have had, and I do feel that like sense of community. And I think it's very important, especially for creatives in any industry. I know we some of us are creatives in like tech industries, creatives in medical fields too, but just to be in a room full of people who understand like I don't want to say the struggle because it's not always the struggle, but
Sometimes it's a struggle.
struggle, just a little bit of the struggle, but having people there who understand that plight is so important. And speaking of community, the main thing I've loved specifically about CultureCon is the sense of like belonging that it creates. Like every time I go, it feels, and I know you've heard this before, it feels like I'm at homecoming. I went to HBCU, so I understand like the essence of homecoming for sure. Every time I go, it feels like I these are my family. These are people that like I grew up with. That's how I feel every time I go there. I want to know how you intentionally cultivate that spirit of community in such like a large scale event.
I love that you feel that way because that's how we build it to feel. It did come out of an apartment, and I think you can feel that. And so one of the things we like to say is that we're scaling intimacy. So that feeling that you would have at a homecoming, or if you were going back to a high school reunion, or just seeing people that maybe you don't see them as often as you want to, but when you see them, it's like no time has passed. Like all of that is super intentional. And I think it goes from, the team who's doing all of the programming and the talent bookings and making sure that people in the community are on the stage, right? Like it's people that are still figuring it out. But then also, I'm an icebreaker girl. Like I can be pretty introverted. I need some structure sometimes to kind of like get things going. And so we recognize that a lot of people might be coming by themselves, and it can be super intimidating to walk into a room of 10,000 people and you're like, so I'm just supposed to talk to people. And so we set it up so that you don't have to do it alone. Everything from our SoloCon channel in the CultureCon app, where you can meet other people and kind of go in together, to like different like icebreakers that we have throughout the conference. To even everything that's behind the scenes. So everything from our portrait studio to the activations, a lot of those are designed by people and artists in the community. And so you can kind of see yourself, I think, as a through line in every part of CultureCon. So it's super intentional. And I think one of the challenges that we have every year is as we get bigger, how do you still make it feel like that it's small?
Yeah, yeah. I think that first of all, I want to commend your efforts because I've done some events myself, and baby, I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't know if I could do that again. But yeah, I commend you for that and the ability that you have to create these types of events for people to feel like they belong. Now, I do want to know, taking a step back into you, um, you've been on this journey for a while. You've had this dream, this vision for a very long time. And I want to know, like, I think everybody has like a shift when they start to understand that they are becoming successful or that they're feeling that success. I want to know where and when that shift happened for you, what was happening in your life, what was happening with the CCNYC that you were like, "Oh, this is gaining traction. Like I'm actually creating something that people want to ingest."
Ah, I love that question because there's a tradition that started when I first began CultureCon, and I think it really speaks to the heart of kind of like the surprise that I feel about the traction. And so every year, my parents come to CultureCon every year, and every year I turn to my parents, and it's kind of depressing, but I'm like, no one's coming. They're not. What if they don't come? And every year my parents go, they're coming. And so I think sometimes, the inside has to catch up to the outside because you've seen it so small. And so even sometimes you're surprised that it is gaining traction. But I think what that ladders up to is that you really have to listen for the dripping that only you can hear. I think sometimes we think we're the only ones who see a problem, feel a thing. And for CultureCon, it was really created because I thought, how can I live in this vibrant city, but have such a hard time finding fellow creative people, fellow entrepreneurs, fellow, like, why does everyone seem like they have it all together? And it made me feel like I was the only one who didn't have it all together. And so it feels like CultureCon is a testament of us all being able to like take off our cool and be in community with each other and have fun together. And so I don't know. I think that moment of being like, no one's coming and it's selling out every year. I might have to get a new tradition because it's a little pessimistic of a tradition. But that when I looked over the balcony and saw at the time 4,000 people filled up looking at Tracy Ellis Ross, I really realized that like this was so much bigger than the apartment. Like this was really for all of us.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to know what do you feel you owe your success to? And I don't want to say that like somebody, was the reason why you became who you are, but I think that there could have been a process that you had that you stuck to that you were like, okay, I'm going to stay with this and this is how I became successful. Or there was a mantra that you had. Like, what was it internally that you owe your success to?
Ooh. I mean, I think that the process of CultureCon has absolutely brought me closer to God. I think I was someone who was very much like, I will work hard and then life will unfold. And what I've realized through CultureCon is the gap between Imani working hard and it actually becoming something larger than I ever could have imagined has absolutely been, my faith in God. And it's ironic that my name means faith because I didn't really have a lot of faith. I really was like, I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I'm going to work really hard. And when I look back over my life, I can clearly see that through mentors and community and my friends and God opening doors and placing certain people in my life or even giving me certain skill sets, like being a publicist for 10 years and learning the art of talking to people. I never could have imagined that would have translated in kind of like talking to brands, talking to talent. And so I'm really grateful because I think when you're going forward, some of these things seem so random and it's like, oh, another door opened. Oh, another door opened. But when I look back over my life at the specific places God put me and the specific people he put in my life, I absolutely am like, wow, like this experience, if I hadn't had this experience, I don't know if my faith would be as strong because when I look at CultureCon, there's just no way that even me and or the team can take all of the credit. It really is something so much larger than us. So I think that's what I would really fundamentally attribute it to. And then on a micro level, in terms of just like how I'm built, I always have a saying that I got from when I was a team captain on the track team, which is that it won't fail because of me. And I think what that kind of has been is a battery in my back in terms of I really want to leave this life and leave any chapter knowing that I gave it everything that I could so that I can honestly move on. So when I left NBC after 10 years, I gave it, there was nothing left in me left to give. I had given it everything, every hour, everything that I could. And so for me, there's something about looking back at a chapter and being like, it is well done, we did it. And so I look at my life that way in terms of it's a lot of work. It's a lot of late nights. I want to do my best to start showing more of that when I have more time. But I think at the end of the day, no one can say that our team didn't give it like their all.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, seeing it from when I first was introduced to it till now, it's so amazing. It's so inspiring, especially like I said, as someone who has put together events and has my own organization, things like that. It's like, like, dang, she did it. I love to see it. She did that. I want to know also, and I'm gonna keep it brief because I know we gotta go. I want you to have your day to yourself. But I do want to know when you decided to scale or when the opportunity to scale up presented itself. I'm not sure if it was like if you made the choice to get bigger or if it was just an opportunity presented itself. But when that did happen, how did you tackle the process of creating something that was originally small and making it into something big?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest part of like scaling is really taking the time, especially as a founder, to document your process so that you can get help. Because I think so much of what we're dreaming of and building starts in our head, and then we just have like instincts. Oh, this should be like this. Oh, that color is great. Da 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 da. And what I realized as our team got bigger is it really it was more necessity. So we would sell out venues and I would say, oh, we need a bigger venue. But in a bigger venue, I couldn't be everywhere at once. And so I had to bring in a production manager. I had to bring in a sales team. I had to bring in coordinators. And what I realized very quickly was so many things that were instincts to me was because it was me. So for example, I do not like curves on my stage. I like very sharp images. I just feel like that's a very Imani specific thing. That's not very, let's like it's very subjective. And so what I had to realize is how can I translate these items on paper so that my creative director knows when she's looking at some sets, we don't really like a lot of curves. And so I think as you're scaling anything or delegating anything, it's spending some time being honest with yourself, which are what are the decisions that have to pass by my desk? And what are the decisions I can empower my team to run with? Because if you're the bottleneck and every single thing has to stop by you, in a way, it's a disservice to the team who you're bringing on because they're like, well, can I or can't I? And I think that's what I had to learn really quickly was there are some calls, there's calls right now that my team is having, and I'm itching to be on them, but I'm like, they've got it.
Yeah.
We're gonna go do CEO task.
I love that. No, I love that. I think it's sometimes, especially when it's your baby, it's very hard to like give things away or delegate tasks to other people because it's like I know I can do it all. Like, well, no one should do it all. But I know like in our heads it's like I can do this successfully. I can do this successfully, but you also have to trust. It's about trust. Trust
Come
is
on, trust. And you can set up guardrails so that it's not a free fall, right? So it can be, I need to see it before it goes to print versus
yeah.
you being in every single part of the process. So I always tell my founders and CEOs and anyone who's asking, like, I'm not saying relinquish all control. That's how you end up not knowing what your P&L is, and now we're stressed. But you can set up process where it's like, I'm going to kind of have these guardrails in place and then let people play because the other beautiful thing about letting people play is they come up with some really epic ideas and it's not centered around only your perspective. And so I love when my team is like, I just got off a call where they're like, no, Monty, that's corny. And I'm like, "Damn, humbling, humbled." So, it's how it goes.
Clocked it, clocked it. No, that's great. Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's very important to be able to, like I said, delegate and trust that other people can do it. And like you said, it's about perspective. Like you as one person can only see your vision. You can't really see anybody else's vision. So when people are creating and collaborating, just especially like basically like what the CCNYC is, what CultureCon is what your team is. It's like
Yes.
creatives coming together to create. That is really what it is.
Absolutely. And you literally nailed it on the head. Like we're a working example of what we're looking to build in the community, which is this Avenger type perspective, which is finding your zone of genius and then recognizing that there are other people in your community and finding their zone of genius. All of the folks that are, on our team, they have a really incredible zone of genius. And so when we bring it together, it's like, oh, this is epic. And I love getting out of their way and letting them cook, in each of their, respective areas.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, my final question, I need to know, when it comes to legacy, I'm a big girl, I'm a big legacy lover. I'm sure you've had ideas and visions for what you wanted CultureCon or the CCNYC as overall to be in the future, but I want to know like um what kind of footprint do you think that CultureCon specifically will make 10, 20 years from now, even if it doesn't exist, right? And God forbid it doesn't exist. We want it to have longevity, but even if it doesn't exist, what type of footprint do you want it to leave on this earth?
I think every generation, especially when you're thinking about the Black experience, has really seen strong movements that were steeped in community. And so I think when you think back to, even the Black Panthers or abolitionists or, the Harlem Renaissance, this is the next generation of what was birthed out of those movements. And so much was born out of someone's apartment in during the Harlem Renaissance. And I think for us, this is our generation's opportunity to show what can happen when we're in community with each other. And of course, the stakes have changed, the background has changed, but I think we're trying to get back to something that is inherently human, which is that you can build beautiful things together. And when I say building things together, I'm not only talking about entrepreneurship, I'm talking about like building a life, building a place that you're excited to wake up every morning, building a community that you're not feeling isolated in a time where we're more isolated than ever before. And so, if our legacy is that we continued the tradition of community and we showed that, we all are not having to kind of do it alone, I think that alone is kind of something that we would be really proud of is that when you looked over time, you were able to see that CultureCon existed and we did it our way and we built it from the ground up. There's no big boogeyman behind us that's like pulling the strings. It really is the community that's coming together to build this. Um, and yeah, we're really, really proud of that.
I'm so happy for everything that has happened for you, Imani, from the beginning to its inception till now. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. This was a great, amazing conversation. Always great talking to you.
So good to see you. And I'll see you soon.